speakers are Vivek and Nitish Mehta from Integrator, and their talk is called Automate UI5 App Deployment Using GitHub. Please welcome Vivek and Nitish. Take it away, guys.
Over the next 20 minutes, Vivek and I would be talking a bit about the deployment side of UI5 and how you can easily push your applications to any SAP environment that you work with. We have a very short and crisp agenda. We'll be starting off by talking a bit about the current setup and what kind of challenges are around that. Why there's the need of the current setup, a change in the setup itself. Then we'll be moving on to how you can use GitHub Actions, and the UI5 deploy GitHub action to simplify the things. And lastly, we'll be moving on to a live demo that we are going to attempt during this phase. So quick introduction, my name is Nitish Mehta, and I'm the co-founder of Integrator, working with UI5 in different avatars since 2012, I believe. I'm also joined by my colleague Vivek Goda, who's an expert in the field of UI5 and Fury, and an active contributor to the UI5 community. So let's get going. Talking about the current deployment setups. Now, if you're using Web IDE and Business Application Studio or part of an organization like SAP, the DevOps activity is kind of not so tricky. You can leverage the inbuilt Web IDE deployments, deploy your application easily to either web environments or BTP, or even to the Fury Launchpad as a Fury application. But what if you would like to use some other IDs like VS Code? What if you would not like to use the inbuilt Git provided by the Web IDE and use something like GitHub, where you have all your other projects maintained as well? What if you prefer to do deployments or developments, not just in UI5, but a host of other frameworks? Things start to get a bit tricky. And that's kind of the primary problem that we are also looking to solve. So we are a team that develops across different JavaScript frameworks, different languages, and use GitHub for different things, not just as a code repository, but also for running our integration test, running our deployments, whether it is to AWS, whether it is to ABAP or the BTP environments. So doing this from Web IDE or switching to Web IDE whenever we are working on UI5 was a bit of a tricky challenge. And we wanted to make our life simpler. And that's where we explored what we are going to share with you. Another aspect is in case you are trying to deploy your applications to not just one environment, but multiple environments. So we've seen the cases of different Fury apps running in on-premise as well as cloud environments. A very similar case is for some of our applications that we try to have it not just on ABAP as well as BTP and also on our custom AWS deployment. So it is the same line of application code that is deployed on 3 environments. And we really wanted to not do manual activities. So trying to simplify all this, we decided to leverage some of the innovations that have been done by the UI5 community, the UI5 tooling, and some other developers out there. That's where UI5 deploy, the GitHub action comes in. I will hand it over to my colleague, Vivek, who will take us through further around this and how we solve it.
Hello, everyone. As Nitish already explained, so this is how our UI5 development setup was looking like. We were multiple developers who are working on our own favorite web development tools such as VS Code, Web IDE, or many other tools. Then we were using GitHub for all our code collaboration and code reviews and running static code checks and running the automated test scripts and many other things. We were basically relying on GitHub a lot for many things, but UI5 developer wise, everyone used to have different code editors. So, we were using GitHub for many things, but not for deployment. This is the one gap that we had. Usually how we used to do is we used to, if it is a SAP Cloud application, then we used to connect our GitHub repository to WebIDE. Then we push our code to GitHub. Then we will pull all the changes in WebIDE. Then once we have it in WebIDE, then WebIDE is very well integrated with deploying things to Cloud Connect, SAP Cloud. So we used to deploy it from WebIDE. Then once, if it is a SAP ABAP server, then we used to download the entire file. Then we can zip it and we can upload it to SAP ABAP server. That is how we were handling those things. Then what we did is, to enable this auto deployment, instead of downloading the file and uploading it to the SAP ABAP server or importing it to the WebIDE, then deploying things to SAP Cloud Cockpit. So what we did is we tried to make use of GitHub Actions, which was recently, maybe 1 year ago, introduced by GitHub. Which GitHub Action is something like which will allow us to run work based on events. It can be on demand or it can be on some events. So we started integrating these GitHub Actions. Then we use some tools which are provided by SAP BTP and SAP ABAP, and there were some npm packages which are helping to do these things from our terminals. So what we tried to do here is we brought all those terminal things into our GitHub action. So we named that action as UI5 deploy. Then we hosted that in GitHub Marketplace, where everyone can start making use of it, and we can just start using with our projects. So this is all the theory that I wanted to talk about this. Now I will try to attempt a small demo where we can see how we are using it and how the deployment works and what are all the steps that we did and how you can also make use of this GitHub action in your projects.
So just to make things a bit more interesting, what we're going to do is we try to deploy a mini application, which is nothing but choosing your favorite UI5 logo avatar. If you're on the fire side or on the water side, you can feel free to go to this link, fireversuswater.integrator.com, and pick it up. We'll see which is the favorite one for everyone attending this conference by the end of this next 10 minutes.
So this is the application that Nitish just talked about. Here you can go and select whether you like the fire theme logo better or the water theme logo better. So we will come to this one and see the results at the end of our demo. Now I will go to GitHub repository where we are storing our fire versus water UI5 code. This is the GitHub repository. This is where we are storing it. I will do a minor change to add a UI5 con logo at the footer of our application. Then I will push those changes to our GitHub repository. I will open up my code editor. Then I will just add those lines to add the UI5 logo at the footer. I will add this. Once I did those changes, I will just commit these changes. Once it is committed, I will just push it to our master branch as of now. Now I will go back to our code repository. As a developer, that is all I need to do from my VS Code. I do the changes, whatever is required, then I post it to our repository. Then we can see that this latest commit is in repository, and also I can see that there is some action which is going on. All the GitHub actions, you can access it from the actions tab, which you can see in GitHub. And here you can see that there is some workflow is running. I will just go inside this workflow to see some steps. Currently, this action is configured to run whenever there is an event, of any commit to the master branch. As soon as there is some code to the code push to the master branch, then I build this entire UI5 project using UI5 tooling. Then I will just deploy it to SAP Cloud Cockpit. Here I will go to the version. I will just meantime it deploys these things. I will just go to the GitHub action that I'm using here. This is available in GitHub Marketplace, which is named as UI5 deploy. And here also you can find the documentation about what are all the how to make use of these things and what are all the parameters that it accepts, how to change the different environments. For example, now I was showing you new environment, but we can also switch it to BSP, BSP environment and many other options. Also, this will document all the different possibilities or different configurations that we can do for this GitHub action. Now I will go back to this action and see whether it is completed. Yeah, we have a success status here. That means our application should be deployed in our it should be deployed in our SAP Cloud. I will just go and refresh that version section in our SAP Cloud. Now you should be able to see the new version with the timestamp of the time whenever it was there. I'll just click on this one just to see whether my changes are already in or not. Here I need to I added logo in the second page, so I will just go with the fire theme logo which I want, which side I belong to. Now I can see that this UFICon logo is added at the footer, which is a recent change that which is the last change that I did, and there was no manual effort from my side apart from changing the code and pushing the code. There is nothing else was involved, and I see that from the votes I see that there are many people who likes this fire themed logo better than water theme. Yeah, this is how we deploy these things. And now I will just quickly go through this workflow file which we have written, which you need to do if you're going to have it in your repository also. Since this is an event based workflows, what I did is in the YAML file I just configured on which event it should be triggered. That is on push to master branch, I want to trigger all these events. Also, I want to do these things when manually also. For example, if there is no commit, but I want to deploy new changes that time, or if I want to commit new changes to different sub account or global account or different environment, then I can use this manual event also. Then I configured few jobs which should run on this event. That is, it will check out to the current repository, then it will install Node.js, then it will install all the Node npm packages. These three jobs are like almost similar to all GitHub actions. Then we come to yarn build command, which is from UI5 tooling. We will just use this to build a project, which will create a dist folder for us. Then we use our GitHub action, where we just have to mention which type of deployment we are trying to do and which is the cloud user and password, and where is the host, which SAP host we are using, and what is the sub account ID. Here, all the credentials we are maintaining it in GitHub secrets. If you are a owner in GitHub, if you're a admin in GitHub repository, then you will have a section called settings. Here we will have secret section. This is where we maintain all our credentials so that we don't need to share it with everyone who is part of this part of this repository. Only admin can do this one-time setup, and after that we don't need to change anything here unless we change any password or anything in SAP BTP system. Yeah, now I will stop sharing my screen, and I will also summarize what all the different benefits that we have from this UI5 plugin, UI5 GitHub action. This one, this provides a lot of benefits. One is this is a one-time setup that we need to do. That once admin does this setup, then we don't need to change any configuration every time. It's all like one-time setup, and we don't need to change every time, and it's completely free and open source. We welcome new PRs or new enhancements based on your custom requirement. And I would like to give huge shout out to Florian, whose NPM package that we are using, that is UI5 deployer, that is helping us to deploy our changes to SAP ABAP server. And this is completely centralized access and brand-based deployment. That is like, if one, it is not like one person have to take care of the deployment every time. Everyone, whoever is part of the repository, they can deploy it whenever they want. And also, if there is a requirement to deploy our branch on specific scenarios, for example, we have a branch which we want to deploy, but we don't want to merge it to master branch. It might be for some demo scenarios. Then we can just set up that workflow to just use that branch to deploy, and it will be ready in few seconds. We don't need to set up the entire infrastructure for hosting new branches. Then, since there will be no manual effort for building and deployment, it will be usually faster than regular web IDE deployment. And also, for SAP ABAP deployments, the NPM package UEFI deployer makes it far faster than this manual zip download and zip upload way. And if you're using multiple environment, for example, if our application is in we are having different global account or sub accounts for development, production, quality, then we can have all these things in one place, so that we don't need to log into different web IDs and pull the changes and deploy it. We can have multiple actions running from one place, and once we push any changes or once we deploy it manually, then it will be applied everywhere. Like if even in a web server, even in cloud server, multiple sub accounts, everywhere we can deploy it one time. Yeah, on-demand deployment is something that, for example, you don't want to update your quality system or production system every time there is a push to master branch. You want to do it on demand, like some on timely basis, or then you want to move it, then you can do that. Those features are available. And since we use GitHub Actions completely, the GitHub provides a lot of options, like who would be able to use these actions, only who can trigger these actions. All those settings we can customize completely. Also, since GitHub Actions are not widely used with UEFI projects, there are many things such as checking for ESLint errors, running automated test scripts, and running GitHub Actions on some, whenever there are some labels. We can do a lot of customizations in GitHub Actions using GitHub Actions, and we can make use of most of those things. With these slides, we included all the reference code for our file versus flutter application. Also, for the GitHub action that we have, you can go through the complete code of our GitHub action. You can extend it as per your requirement. And soon we will also introduce, we will also publish SAP blog on how to set up these things with step-by-step guide, so that you can just go through these things and set up for your own projects. And we welcome all the questions and feedback in those blogs. Yeah. So thank you. This was our session.
Yeah, so please feel free to go out, check out the GitHub repositories, and try it out for your application. And we look forward to seeing some issues and PRs coming on. Thank you, everyone.
I think you guys covered a lot of ground. And as a result, we also have some questions here. And I'll just go through the first ones and we'll see how far we get. So first up, how about UI5 CLI GitLab or UI5 CLI Bitbucket actions or workflows, or whatever they're called there? Can you say anything about that?
About Bitbucket, we have not explored it yet. Since we are using GitHub Actions, if it involves GitHub, then we can do that. Actually, we need to explore this UI5 CLI GitLab. Actually, we are not very sure about that one, but we will update about these things in our blog. If we find it is possible to do it with GitLab and Bitbucket also.
So currently, we already use a lot of other GitHub actions in combination with ours. So it is possible to use any GitHub action available on the GitHub marketplace.
Okay. Next one. Is there a strict recommendation from SAP to use GitHub? We are successfully using GitLab for many years. And as I see it, nothing indicates that we are unable to integrate tooling from SAP there for the years to come. GitLab, do you have any opinion?
This is nothing like an official SAP recommendation. We've been using GitHub for all our projects, and we like to work with it and leverage all the new innovations coming onto it. And that's where we preferred creating more things on it.
And next question, GitHub Actions. Is the GitHub action, is it actually a substitute for Jenkins?
It can be used. So in our case, we initially our deployment 1 year back was using something like a Jenkins build pipeline, and we slowly turned it into GitHub, where we are now doing our ESLint checks. We are running our integration test on it. And with this GitHub action that we created, we're also able to deploy. So there's no need of Travis CI or Jenkins for us. So it is a pretty powerful tool, and yeah, so far we've been really liking it.
Right. What would be interesting is, are there any limitations you've faced with your approach? Is there anything that you would like to have addressed in the future? Any plans for improvements?
Yeah, sure. We are planning to, like, if we are deploying to ABAP systems, then we need a there will be a concept of transport request, and also we are trying to improve there. Yeah, it is possible now. It will usually create a new transport request whenever we deploy it to the ABAP server. That is, we are using an UFI deployer npm package, which will do that. But we are trying to improve in that space where we can provide the transport request number from GitHub action itself. Then that action, that transport request number will be used for storing this UFI project. In that way, we are working on.
So did I get that correctly? That the ABAP transport request is always required, or is it possible actually to deploy a Fiori app to an ABAP system without the transport request?
Yeah, we don't need to do it. Then automatically it will create a new transport request and it will store our application there. If it is already there, then we will have a configuration file called UFI deployer RC. There we can maintain our transport request, existing transport request number, and we can do it. If we don't maintain it, it will create new one. It is totally possible to deploy to a web server.
Okay. So you don't need to worry about this transport request. Then it's handled automatically. Then. Good.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for these answers. I think we've reached the end of the session.